Hey, get your filthy hands off of that glass! The voice cut through the serene, opulent air of the jewelry store like a shattered window. You people have no business being here. This isn't some damn street market. Security guard Damien's words were a cudgel, crude and violent. He stomped toward the impeccably dressed black couple, his hands waving them away as if they were vermin he'd discovered befouling his sanctuary. His face was a contorted mask of pure, unadulterated disgust as he physically inserted his body between them and a velvet-lined display of engagement rings. Dr. Evelyn Reed stood tall, her posture radiating a quiet power in her bespoke emerald-green blazer. Beside her, her husband, Dr. Marcus Vance, a handsome man in a suit that whispered, rather than shouted, its expense, placed a calming hand on the small of her back. They had dressed with care for this moment, a sacred pilgrimage to select a perfect 30th anniversary gift for Marcus's parents, a testament to a love that had weathered life's storms and inspired their own. But Damien, blinded by a bigotry as ugly as the jewels were beautiful, saw none of that. His eyes, small and hard, saw only the color of their skin. "Ma'am, put that ring down before you smudge something you could never afford." He didn't wait for a response. He lunged, snatching the stunning $75,000 canary diamond ring from Evelyn's grasp, as though confiscating stolen goods. The other patrons, older, whiter, their wealth comfortably on display, stopped their browsing. Their stares were a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled approval. Phones, like sleek, modern weapons, began to emerge from designer handbags and suit pockets. The rarefied atmosphere of luxury shopping curdled into that of a public shaming. Store manager Tiffany hurried from a back office, her severe blonde bob and pinched expression telegraphing her verdict before a single question was asked. She moved to Damien's side, a loyal soldier reinforcing her post. Have you ever been made to feel like a trespasser in your own life? Treated like a thief while trying to celebrate a moment of love, simply because someone else's prejudice was the only lens through which they could see you? If you know that feeling, that deep, searing sting of injustice, I need you to type "I understand" in the comments right now. And hey, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because the justice you're about to witness is a dish best served cold. 3:12 p.m. on a crisp Chicago afternoon. 48 minutes before a board meeting that would change everything. The familiar, icy poison of racism flooded Dr. Evelyn Reed's veins. It was a toxin she had learned to metabolize, a recurring sickness she'd endured through medical school, during her residency, and in every boardroom she had conquered while building her vast biomedical empire. Her hands, the hands of a surgeon and a CEO, remained as steady as stone even as Damien's tirade escalated. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some credit cards and your identification. Right now," Damien barked, his voice filled with the unearned authority of a man who expects to be obeyed. "We have to verify the legitimate purchasing power for items of this value." Marcus moved infinitesimally closer to his wife, a silent, protective shield. His jaw was a tight knot of controlled fury, but his demeanor was a study in restraint. 27 years of marriage had taught them to be the calm in each other's storms. His alligator leather briefcase, embossed with the discreet gold leaf of the Vance conglomerate, sat unnoticed and unassuming by the jewelry counter. Tiffany, the store manager, arrived like a squall line, her voice sharp and accusatory. "What is the problem here?" she demanded, her gaze flitting between Evelyn and Marcus, already categorizing them as the problem. Damien, puffing his chest out, launched into a performance worthy of the stage. "These two were handling the high-value merchandise without any assistance. I saw her with the $75,000 solitaire," he declared, gesturing dramatically at the canary diamond as if it were a murder weapon. $75,000? Tiffany repeated, her voice lacquered with disbelief. She raked Evelyn and Marcus with a dismissive glance, appraising them like mismatched furniture in her showroom. That's a very significant purchase. A few feet away, a young woman with sharp eyes and a sharper sense of right and wrong was shopping for earrings. Her name was Sarah Jenkins, a law student who recognized the foul stench of prejudice from a mile away. She discreetly pulled out her phone, opened her Instagram app, and her thumb hovered over the Go Live button. This was not just poor customer service. This was a violation. We've been having a lot of trouble lately with certain people attempting to run sophisticated scams, Damien announced loudly, ensuring the other customers could hear his justification. Credit card fraud, identity theft. You know how they operate. The racist dog whistle landed with the force of a physical blow. A muscle feathered in Evelyn's jaw. She had personally overseen a biotech fund that morning valued at $900 million, but in this man's eyes, she wasn't even qualified to browse. Marcus's sleek smartwatch buzzed silently. A single line of text glowed on the screen. Luxmark Holdings acquisition closing at 4 p.m. Board approval unanimous. He read the message, then his eyes flicked to Damien's name tag. A bitter, ironic smile almost touched his lips. They were standing in a store owned by a company they were, in this very hour, in the process of acquiring. The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor. "Sir, ma'am," Tiffany began, her voice dripping with a cloying, false politeness. "I'm afraid I will need to see at least 2 forms of identification and any credit cards you plan on using today. It's store policy." "Why?" Evelyn's voice was placid, but with an underlying current of forged steel. "Have you asked every other customer in this store for 2 forms of identification before allowing them to browse?" Tiffany's momentary hesitation was a confession. All around them, other wealthy white customers drifted freely, trying on Rolexes and diamond bracelets without the slightest hint of scrutiny. Sarah Jenkins pressed the button. The red Live icon appeared. "You guys are not going to believe this," she whispered to her phone. "Right now, at Aurelian Jewels on Michigan Ave, they are literally treating this beautiful couple like criminals for just existing." Her viewer count began to tick upward. 52, 189, 411. An elderly white couple near the watch display muttered to each other, their voices deliberately loud. "They really ought to look for a store that's more suitable for their budget." The remark found its intended target. Damien smirked, emboldened by the support from his audience. "Exactly," he chimed in. "There are plenty of other shops that might be a better fit." Evelyn's phone buzzed. A notification from her CFO, Q3 revenue report. VC Biomed division exceeds projections by 4.1 $1. She silenced it, but Marcus caught the message. Their eyes met, a silent conversation passing between them, a lifetime of shared experiences and strategies conveyed in a single glance. "Some people just don't know their place," Damien grumbled, playing to the crowd. "They see a little luxury and think a fancy suit gives them a ticket to belong." The words were designed to humiliate, to put them back in the box his narrow mind had constructed for them. Sarah's livestream viewership hit 1,500. The comments started pouring in, a torrent of digital outrage. "This is blatant racism. Get his name. Sue the hell out of them." But Damien, high on his own power, wasn't done. He shifted his stance, subtly positioning himself between the couple and the exit, his hand drifting to rest on the radio clipped to his belt. A gesture of intimidation. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to open your purse." The accusation was no longer veiled. It hung in the air, thick and toxic. "We've had issues with individuals concealing merchandise." The other shoppers stopped browsing entirely. The store became a silent theater, their phones the footlights. The atmosphere was no longer just uncomfortable. It was electric with impending conflict. Evelyn slowly rose to her full, commanding height. She had stared down corporate raiders, skeptical investors, and life-or-death surgical outcomes. A racist security guard in a rented uniform was not going to intimidate her. "Are you accusing me of attempting to steal from this store?" Her voice was so cold it could have caused frostbite. "I'm saying, we need to verify that all of our merchandise is accounted for before you leave." Damien backpedaled, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He'd stepped into legally perilous territory, and he knew it. Marcus raised his phone, not to dial, but to record. "We will be documenting the remainder of this interaction for our legal protection." "No recording!" Damien lunged forward again. "That's against store policy." "Show me that policy," Marcus said, his voice quiet but unyielding. "Show me where it is written down." Tiffany quickly stepped in. "Sir, let's not escalate this. We can resolve everything if you just cooperate with our verification process." "Our ability to make a purchase," Evelyn repeated slowly, as if the words themselves were contaminated. "And what criteria are you using to assess that ability, Tiffany?" The question hung in the air, unanswerable, because the only honest answer, because you are black, could not be spoken aloud. An automated announcement crackled through the store's speakers. "Attention Aurelian jewel shoppers. The store will be closing promptly at 4 p.m. today for a private corporate event." Tiffany's eyes widened in panic. The corporate event, the new owners. She had completely forgotten about the transition meeting. The new investors were finalizing the takeover of Luxmark Holdings, the store's parent company, today. "We need to get this sorted out now," she whispered urgently to Damien. "Corporate is going to be here any minute for the handover." Damien nodded, his authority swelling one last time. "Ma'am, sir, I am now ordering you to leave these premises. You are causing a disturbance and upsetting our clientele." They hadn't raised their voices. They hadn't made a single threat. They had done nothing but try to shop for a gift. But in the twisted logic of this place, their very presence was the disturbance. Sarah's live stream had hit 3,000 viewers. The digital mob was roaring for justice. Marcus calmly tapped a speed dial number on his phone. "David," he said, his voice steady. "It's Marcus. Execute the Luxmark acquisition. Finalize the transfer immediately. Full purchase. Effective right now." Damien and Tiffany stared at him, their faces a mixture of confusion and contempt. "Execute what?" Tiffany demanded. Marcus looked from Damien to Tiffany and back again. His smile was razor-thin and held absolutely no warmth. "Something that is about to permanently and irrevocably alter the course of both of your lives. 3:25 p.m., 35 minutes before the official close of business." Mall Security Officer Miller burst through the glass doors of Aurelian Jewels as if responding to a hostage situation. His radio sputtered with frantic calls as he took in the tableau. A silent, tense standoff, a sea of phones recording, and 2 store employees who were clearly in over their heads. "All right, what's going on here?" Miller demanded, his hand reflexively resting on his belt. 2 other guards fanned out behind him, a coordinated display of force that effectively sealed the exit. Damien practically sobbed with relief. "These individuals have been attempting to handle high-value merchandise without proper authorization," he said, his voice rising with theatrical panic. "They are being uncooperative, and we suspect they may be involved in fraudulent activity." Tiffany nodded with frantic energy, adding kindling to the fire. "They refuse to provide proper ID for a major purchase. We have reason to suspect credit card or even identity theft." The accusations piled on top of each other, each one more baseless and vile than the last. Sarah's live stream viewer count was a blur, rocketing past 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 viewers. The comment section was a waterfall of rage. "This is kidnapping! Call the Chicago PD! They need a civil rights lawyer now! Sarah steadied her hand, ensuring she captured the image of the 3 uniformed security guards now surrounding the lone couple. "You are all witnesses to this," she murmured. "This is harassment, plain and simple, for shopping while black." A wealthy white woman examining pearl necklaces clucked her tongue and whispered loudly to her friend, "Well, the store has to protect itself. You can't be too careful these days." This casual co-signing of the blatant racial profiling was like throwing gasoline on a raging inferno. Marcus's hands clenched into fists at his sides. He consciously uncurled them, finger by finger. He had built a global conglomerate through icy logic and strategic patience, not by reacting to the ignorant provocations of bigots. "Ma'am, sir," Miller began, adopting a tone of practiced, condescending authority, "I'm going to need you to step away from the display cases and turn over your identification so we can get this situation resolved." "Resolve what, exactly, officer?" Evelyn's voice was surgical in its precision. "We were customers. We were browsing. What is the specific issue that requires resolution?" The simple question stripped the situation bare, exposing its absurd and ugly foundation. Miller faltered. He was suddenly acutely aware of the dozens of lenses pointed directly at him, recording his every word, every move. Damien sensed the shift and leaped back in. They were acting suspicious from the moment they walked in. The way they were looking at the rings, asking questions. It's classic retail fraud behavior. What questions did we ask that were unusual? Marcus's quiet challenge was a landmine. Another pause, another stumble. Damien's playbook had no section for victims who refused to be victims, who met aggression with logic instead of fear. Tiffany tried desperately to wrestle back control. "Sir, ma'am, this can all be over if you just cooperate with our security protocols. Please, provide me with a written copy of these protocols," Evelyn requested, her voice dangerously calm. Silence. Of course, no such official written policy existed. It was a policy of prejudice, enforced on a whim. The mall's PA system crackled again. "Security command to Officer Miller at Aurelian Jewels. Be advised, we are receiving media inquiries about an active incident at your location. Please provide immediate status update." Media inquiries? Tiffany's voice was a panicked squeak. The situation was spiraling far beyond her manicured grasp. On Sarah's live stream, comments confirmed it. "Channel 5 News is on this. It's going viral. Someone call a lawyer for this couple." Damien, realizing his position was untenable, made the fatal decision to double down. He needed to prove these people were a threat to justify his actions. "Ma'am, standard procedure dictates I inspect your purse for concealed merchandise." The accusation of theft, now bald and direct, solidified the moment. Evelyn's legendary composure finally showed a crack. Not of fear, but of profound, soul-deep weariness from the sheer, crushing weight of a lifetime spent deflecting these assumptions. "You are officially accusing me of shoplifting," she stated, her voice clear and resonant for all the recording devices. "I'm following standard protocol for suspicious individuals," Damien stammered. "Be specific." Marcus's tone could have cut diamond. "Tell us, and everyone watching, what specific behavior you observed that was suspicious." The silence that followed was a cavern. Damien couldn't articulate his suspicions because they were rooted in nothing more than the color of their skin. Miller stepped forward, trying to de-escalate. "Folks, let's all just calm down. If we could please see some ID." "Why?" Evelyn cut him off. "Officer, have you requested ID from any other shopper in this store today?" Miller glanced around helplessly. He knew he hadn't. "This situation is different," Damien insisted, his desperation palpable. "How?" Marcus's question hung in the air, thick and damning. That's when Tiffany made the critical, unrecoverable error. "Look," she snapped, her frustration boiling over. "People like you just have to understand that a store like this needs to be extra careful. We have a certain type of clientele, and when unusual customers want to make large purchases, we have to verify." The mask was off. "People like you." The words echoed in the stunned silence, a direct confession of the store's unwritten policy. Sarah's phone showed 15,000 live viewers. On social media, the hashtag #ChoggerJewelryStoreRacism began trending in Chicago. Evelyn's phone buzzed with an alert. Luxmark Holdings board meeting changed to 3:45 p.m. Acquisition documents require immediate e-signature. She glanced at the screen, then at Tiffany's name tag. The irony was so thick it was almost suffocating. She was minutes from owning the company that employed this woman who was questioning her very right to exist in this space. "Ma'am, sir," Miller tried one last time. "For the sake of a peaceful resolution, can we please discuss this in the manager's office? In private?" "Private?" Marcus laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "You made this spectacle public when you decided to treat us like criminals in front of an entire store and a worldwide audience. We will resolve it publicly." Damien's frustration finally imploded. "This is what's wrong with the world today," he spat. "Some people don't know their place. They think they can just waltz into any fine establishment and demand respect like they actually belong here." The words were a nuclear bomb. The livestream audience detonated. Comments flew too fast to read. Did he just say, "Know your place"? This is 1960, not 2025. They will own that store by tomorrow. Evelyn stood tall, her entire demeanor shifting. The transformation was subtle, like a monarch remembering her crown. The victim was gone. The CEO had taken her place. "Our place," she repeated, her voice soft and contemplative. "That is a very interesting choice of words, Damien." Something in her tone, a sudden and terrifying calm, silenced the entire room. There was no anger, only the placid certainty of someone who has never, for a single moment, doubted her own power. Marcus checked his watch. 3:32 p.m. "Evelyn, darling, we have that 3:45 meeting." "What meeting?" Tiffany demanded. Evelyn reached into her designer handbag, the same one Damien had demanded to search. She didn't pull out a wallet. She withdrew a sleek carbon fiber business card case. With a deliberate, almost theatrical slowness, she opened it. "The meeting," she said, her voice echoing in the silent store, "where we finalize the acquisition of your parent company." Damien's face turned the color of ash. What parent company?" But Evelyn's phone was already ringing. She answered it, hitting the speaker button so every single person, in the store and online, could hear. "Dr. Reed, it's Robert Harrington from Luxmark Holdings Corporate. The acquisition documents are ready for your signature. Are you and Dr. Vance still planning on attending the 3:45 board meeting to finalize the transition?" You could have heard a diamond drop. Damien reached out and grabbed the edge of a display case, his knuckles white. Tiffany's mouth opened and closed like a fish, but no sound came out. On Sarah's phone, the viewer count crested 20,000. The comments were pure, unhinged joy. "Plot twist. She owns them all. Damien is about to be applying at Walmart." "Yes, Robert." Evelyn's voice was now imbued with an absolute, unshakable authority. "We will be there. In fact, we're conducting an impromptu preliminary inspection of one of our newest assets right now." "Excellent," Robert's voice boomed from the phone. "And how are things looking on the ground?" Evelyn looked directly into Damien's terrified eyes. His entire life was flashing before them. "Illuminating, Robert," she said. "We seem to have identified some personnel issues that will require our immediate and undivided attention." A pause from the phone. Personnel issues? Should I be concerned? You should be prepared for some significant restructuring, Evelyn replied smoothly. She ended the call and surveyed the room. Her room. The store she now owned. And for the first time since walking through the doors, she smiled. Damien, Tiffany, Officer Miller, she said, her voice resonating with newfound power. I believe the three of you and I need to have a conversation about customer service standards. 3:34 p.m. 26 minutes before the board meeting, where she would formally take command. The business card in Evelyn's hand seemed to absorb the light of the store, glowing like a holy relic. She held it out so that Sarah's camera and the world could see it clearly. Dr. Evelyn Reed, Chief Executive Officer, the Vance Conglomerate. The embossed gold lettering was undeniable. Damien stared at the card as if it were a magical incantation he couldn't comprehend. His mind simply couldn't build a bridge from suspicious individual to corporate titan. That can't be real. Can't it? Evelyn's eyebrows arched. Why? Because I'm a black woman? Because a black CEO doesn't fit into the tiny, colorless box you've constructed as your worldview? Tiffany staggered back, clutching a countertop for support, as if the floor had tilted beneath her feet. You can't own Luxmark Holdings. The owners are... Are what, Tiffany? Marcus's voice sliced through her sputtering. White? Old? Male? Is there a particular skin color required for ownership that we weren't aware of? Sarah's live stream had detonated online, now at over 25,000 viewers. The comments were a blur of pure vindication. Holy hell, she bought the whole damn company. This is the best day of my life. Corporate justice porn. The digital audience was in a frenzy as the power dynamic didn't just shift. It inverted with the force of a tectonic plate. Officer Miller felt a cold dread snake up his spine. He had just participated in the unlawful detainment of two of the most powerful business figures in the city. His radio crackled again, this time with a frantic, high-pitched urgency. Unit 7, we are getting inundated with calls from every news outlet in Chicago. What is your status? It's complicated, Miller whispered back into his radio, suddenly feeling the weight of the dozen cameras still pointed at him. He hadn't just made a mistake. He had stumbled into a career-ending catastrophe. From Evelyn's phone, Robert Harrington's voice suddenly returned, this time on speakerphone and laced with panic. He had clearly been watching the live stream. Dr. Reed, I feel I should inform you that the final acquisition documents give you immediate and total operational control of all assets. As of right now, you have full and complete authority over all personnel decisions. The words were like a volley of bullets. Damien's knees gave way, and he slid down the glass case to the floor. All the color drained from Tiffany's face, leaving a pale, terrified mask. Immediate operational control, Evelyn mused aloud, savoring the phrase. How wonderfully convenient, Robert. Damien found his voice, though it was a strangled, pathetic whisper. You really are the new owner? With the calm efficiency of a scientist, Evelyn opened her laptop on the counter. The screen lit up with a document watermarked Strictly Confidential. Luxmark Holdings Acquisition, $1.2 billion. She angled the screen towards the crowd, towards Sarah's phone, for the entire world to see. The Vance Conglomerate completed its purchase of Luxmark Holdings 22 minutes ago, she announced. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. According to these P&L statements, this specific location generates approximately $4.6 million in annual revenue. Or I should say, it did. The raw numbers silenced everyone. $1.2 billion. Miller felt lightheaded. Marcus pulled out his own business card, and placed it on the counter next to Evelyn's. Dr. Marcus Vance, Chief Investment Officer, the Vance Conglomerate. We manage a portfolio of acquisitions in the luxury retail, biomedical, and tech sectors, he added calmly. Tiffany's mind, frantically searching for an off-ramp, seized on apologies. Dr. Reed, ma'am, I am so sorry. There has been a horrible misunderstanding. Damien, he was acting on his own. I didn't authorize his actions. Didn't you? Evelyn's voice remained unnervingly conversational, which made her words even more devastating. You stood beside him. You supported his every accusation. You demanded our identification. You questioned our financial standing. You told us people like you needed extra verification. I was just following. We have certain procedures. Show me the written procedure, Marcus challenged again, his voice like ice. Show us all the official company policy that instructs you to racially profile your customers. Silence, because it was not a policy you could write down. It was a culture you practiced. Evelyn, however, wasn't finished. She pulled up another document on her laptop. Luxmark Holdings Employee Handbook, Section 3, Subsection B. All patrons and potential patrons will be treated with the utmost respect and dignity, regardless of race, creed, gender, or perceived socioeconomic status. She locked eyes with Damien, who was still slumped on the floor. In the space of about 30 minutes, you have violated your own company's policy, federal civil rights law, and the most basic tenet of human decency. Damien finally cracked. Dr. Reed, please. I have a family, a mortgage. I need this job. I didn't know who you were. That, Evelyn said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, is the entire point. You didn't know who we were, so you assumed the worst. You saw a black couple, and your mind immediately leaped to threat, to fraud, to criminal. Your ignorance is not a defense, Damien. It is a confession. The live stream hit 30,000 viewers. Major news networks were now actively pulling the feed. The hashtag Dr. Aurelian Justice was trending nationally. Sarah's phone was vibrating non-stop with notifications. CNN wants an interview. We're sending a crew. Tiffany tried a different tack, one of desperate, last-minute reform. Dr. Reed, we can fix this. We can implement immediate company-wide sensitivity training programs. We can rewrite the policies. You shouldn't need a training seminar to treat us like human beings, Marcus cut in, his voice raw with a pain that went far beyond this single incident. Common decency is not a corporate skill set to be learned. It is the price of admission to a civil society. Evelyn's phone pinged with a new message. An e-receipt from a legal filing service. She held it up for the cameras. A formal complaint has been filed with the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, she announced coolly. Case number CR 2025-8814. The discrimination that occurred here today is now officially the subject of a federal investigation. Damien's face went chalky. Federal investigation? For what? Violation of Title II of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination in places of public accommodation, Evelyn recited, as if reading from a textbook. The potential penalties include substantial fines, civil damages, criminal charges, and federally mandated oversight of your entire company. Each legal term was another nail in their professional coffins. Officer Miller took a slow step backward, trying to physically distance himself from the toxic fallout he had helped create. Dr. Reed, Robert Harrington's voice crackled through the phone again, filled with undisguised terror. I'm seeing extraordinary social media activity connected to the Chicago location. Is everything under control? Robert, Evelyn said, her voice devoid of sympathy. Your staff at asset number 412 has just provided the entire world with a masterclass in systemic racism. We have dozens of witnesses, irrefutable video documentation, and as of 90 seconds ago, a federal case number. Through the phone, the sounds of frantic keyboard typing and panicked, muffled voices could be heard. Dr. Reed, whatever happened, whatever they did, we will make it right. Full and immediate remedial action. Tell us what you require. What I require, Evelyn responded, is accountability. Your security guard accused my husband and me of theft. Your store manager endorsed his bigotry. Your security protocols allowed them to humiliate paying customers based on nothing more than the color of our skin. Her voice grew stronger with each word. You want to make this right, Robert? Let's start by acknowledging the truth of what happened in this store today. Damien began to sob openly. Dr. Reed, I'm so sorry. I am. I was wrong. I was so completely and totally wrong. Your apology is not for me. Evelyn's reply was devastatingly calm. You should be apologizing to every single person of color you have ever followed around a store, every family you have judged, every customer you have humiliated because they didn't match your pathetic, prejudiced image of who is allowed to have wealth in this country. Ashley made one final, desperate plea for mercy. Dr. Reed, please, if you could just find it in your heart to give us one more chance. A chance? Marcus's laugh was a brittle, broken sound. How many chances did you give us before you branded us as thieves? How much time did you give us to prove our humanity before you sicked security on us? The questions landed with the force of body blows. Tiffany began to cry, her shoulders shaking with choked, ragged sobs. Sarah's live stream audience peaked at over 40,000 people. The comments were a singular voice. This is history. She is an icon. They are getting everything they deserve. Evelyn stood, her presence utterly commanding the space. The transformation was absolute. For the benefit of everyone watching, she announced, addressing the live stream directly, let me clarify the current corporate reality. The Vance conglomerate is now the sole owner of Luxmark Holdings and all of its subsidiaries, including the Aurelian Jewels brand. We have immediate, complete operational control, full authority over personnel, and now the backing of the United States Department of Justice to enforce civil rights. She paused, allowing the full weight of her words to land. Damien, Tiffany, your employment is terminated, effective immediately, for gross misconduct, violations of federal law, and actions deliberately detrimental to the brand's reputation. You can't just fire us, Damien blubbered. We have rights, a union. Illinois is an employment-at-will state, Marcus stated coolly, and documented civil rights violations typically void any union protections. Discrimination is, in fact, a fireable offense. Tiffany collapsed onto a nearby stool, looking utterly broken. This isn't happening. This can't be real. Oh, it's very, very real, Tiffany, Evelyn assured her. And it's about to become even more real when the federal investigators request your sworn testimony. Her phone buzzed once more. Message from AG Office, FBI Civil Rights Division, is requesting an immediate interview. She held the phone up. The FBI would like to speak with us about today's incident. It appears our federal law enforcement agencies take commercial discrimination very seriously. Officer Miller, realizing his own profound legal jeopardy, tried to save himself. Dr. Reed, I was only responding to a security call from the store. I didn't initiate this. But you participated in it, Evelyn corrected him calmly. You surrounded us. You escalated the situation. You were preparing to detain law-abiding customers based on the hysterical, unsubstantiated claims of a racist employee. Your participation, officer, enabled their discrimination. The mall's PA system crackled to life. Security Command, be advised we have multiple media news vans arriving at the south entrance, requesting a statement on the Aurelian Jewels incident. News vans, Evelyn observed wryly. Robert, are you prepared for the publicity storm this is about to become? From the phone, only resignation. Dr. Reed, we will do whatever it takes. A full public apology. A complete policy overhaul, personnel action, whatever you say." "Good," she replied, "because the live audience is currently over 40,000 people, and I suspect this story will be leading the national news tonight." She closed her laptop with a soft, decisive click. She looked directly at Sarah's camera, speaking now to the vast, unseen audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice ringing with the clarity of a bell, "this is what accountability looks like in the 21st century. Your bigotry no longer gets to hide in the shadows. Your prejudice now has immediate, permanent, and very public consequences." Damien made one last, desperate appeal. "Please, Dr. Reed, I'll do anything. I'll take classes, I'll do community service, whatever you want." Evelyn's response was final, an epitaph for his career. "The time for you to learn sensitivity, Damien, was before you treated us like criminals. The time for an apology was before you humiliated my family. The time for a second chance was before you decided that our black skin made us guilty until proven innocent." She collected her handbag, and Marcus gently took her arm. "Now," she said softly, "is the time for consequences." Together they walked towards the entrance, the same exit they had been forbidden from using just minutes before. They walked with their heads held high, their power not just restored, but revealed. Behind them, the live stream continued to roll, capturing the wreckage of lives and careers destroyed by a hatred they chose to embrace. Justice had been served, not behind closed doors, but in the glaring, unforgiving light of a worldwide broadcast. The revolution, as it turned out, was being live-streamed. 8 weeks later, the sterile conference room that had been the epicenter of corporate panic now felt like a command center for a revolution. Now called the Sterling Transformation Center, it buzzed with a focused, productive energy. Dr. Keisha Washington, the brilliant and formidable new Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer of Luxmark Holdings, stood before a screen displaying metrics that were, just 2 months prior, unthinkable. "Implementation status update," Dr. Washington announced, her voice clear and confident. In the room were Robert Sterling, who had been retained as a transitional COO, and a new, more diverse executive team. On the large video screen, Dr. Evelyn Reed and Dr. Marcus Vance participated from their headquarters. "Body camera deployment across all 138 Aurelian Jewels locations is 100% complete. Since full activation 6 weeks ago, we have logged 0 formal discrimination complaints. 0. The number hung in the air, a testament to the power of pure accountability. The changes Evelyn had demanded were not just cosmetic policy shifts. They were a systemic rebuilding from the ground up, proving that dignity and profitability were not mutually exclusive, but inextricably linked. "And the customer satisfaction scores?" Robert Sterling asked, though the soaring stock ticker on the screen already told the story. "Up 82% since the Aurelian Promise Initiative was implemented," reported Maria Santos, the newly promoted Director of Customer Experience. "We have processed over 50,000 transactions under the new protocols. Our current satisfaction rating is 4.8 out of 5 stars, an industry high." Evelyn watched from the screen, her presence less of a threat now and more that of an architect observing her design. "What is the status of the federal investigation?" "The Department of Justice concluded their audit 2 weeks ago," Robert replied, reading from a report that detailed the company's dramatic resurrection. "They noted substantial and systemic improvements in all reviewed categories. The investigation has officially been moved from punitive to advisory status. Phew. The federal oversight that had once terrified them had become the catalyst for their salvation, forcing a level of transparency that had transformed their entire corporate culture." Dr. Washington continued her report. "Our mandatory bias prevention training has a 100% completion rate. More importantly, Post-training assessments show a marked decrease in implicit bias patterns in 92% of our employees. The most significant shifts were seen in staff who initially demonstrated the highest levels of bias. The stories of Damien and Tiffany had become unlikely legends within the company. After his termination, facing federal scrutiny and public disgrace, Damien had enrolled in a university program for social justice and civil rights history. He now spoke at corporate training seminars, not as an expert, but as a cautionary tale, a man whose life was irrevocably changed by the revelation of his own prejudice. His journey from perpetrator to advocate showed that true accountability could lead not just to punishment, but to profound and unexpected redemption. Tiffany, after settling her civil suit, had quietly gone back to school to become a paralegal, volunteering with an organization that fights housing discrimination. "And the scholarship program?" Evelyn inquired. "The Dignity in Commerce Scholarship launched last month," Dr. Washington beamed. "We offer full funding for 100 students from underprivileged backgrounds annually, pursuing degrees in business, finance, and gemology. We received over 5,000 applications for the first 100 slots. The inaugural class of scholars begins next month." The most astonishing changes, however, were not internal, but external. The Aurelian Jules incident, now a legendary case study at Harvard Business School, was known as the live stream revolution. It had triggered a seismic shift across the entire luxury retail sector. "What has the industry response been?" Marcus asked. "Unprecedented," Sterling admitted. 17 major luxury retail chains, including competitors like Tiffany & Co., Cartier, and Harry Winston, have voluntarily adopted versions of our accountability protocols. They're calling it the Aurelian Standard. The irony was immense. The systemic humiliation of a single black couple had ignited an industry-wide reformation that would benefit millions of customers for decades to come. David Parker, the CFO, presented financial data that was nothing short of miraculous. The total cost of implementation for the Aurelian Promise was $5.2 million, 18% under our initial projections. In the last fiscal quarter, customer retention is up 60%. New customer acquisition has increased by a staggering 95%, with the largest growth seen in minority communities who previously felt unwelcome in luxury spaces. That word-of-mouth marketing in underserved communities has generated an estimated $75 million in new revenue. The original live stream, now with over 10 million views, served as a permanent, powerful advertisement for the brand's redemption. Stock performance had been equally astounding. Share price has not only fully recovered but has gained an additional 41% above its pre-incident high, Parker reported. Our company is now being actively targeted by ESG investment funds. It turns out social governance is not just good ethics, it's a massive competitive advantage. And Sarah Jenkins, the law student whose quick thinking had started it all, was now the first recipient of a full Dignity in Commerce scholarship, with a standing offer of a summer associate position at the Vance conglomerate's legal department. Her courage had been rewarded with opportunity. The story had reached the highest levels of government. The Retail Accountability Act, a bipartisan bill mandating bias prevention training and transparent incident reporting for all large-scale retailers, was passed by a Senate committee, citing the Aurelian Jules incident as its primary impetus. Evelyn's testimony was read into the congressional record. 1 year later, the legacy of that afternoon in Chicago had reshaped entire industries. It was no longer just a viral story, but a blueprint for a new era of corporate accountability. The transformation of Aurelian Jules proved that change was possible when moral appeals were replaced with immediate and undeniable economic consequences. It turned out Discrimination was simply too expensive to be good business. Dr. Evelyn Reed and Dr. Marcus Vance's story had become a modern fable. The live stream, now part of digital history archives, was taught in schools as a primary document of the moment when digital tools democratized justice. Their actions demonstrated that the goal was never simple revenge, but radical and sustainable prevention through unwavering accountability. Social media had become a watchdog, with hashtags like Chanchi Document and Demand creating a grassroots network of citizen journalists holding businesses to a higher standard. Customers streamed interactions, documented service, and recorded discrimination, knowing that their voice, amplified by technology, had the power to move mountains. The revolution was, and continues to be, live-streamed. It is recorded, remembered, and consequential. Have you ever witnessed or experienced an injustice, big or small, in your daily life? Did you stand by, or did you stand up? Your story, your voice, has power. Share your experiences in the comments below. The times you witnessed unfairness, or better yet, the times you saw someone act with courage and decency. Your stories are what fuel this movement. Please, support businesses that make dignity and respect their core values. Your dollar is your vote. Let's build a world where the principles of the Aurelian Standard are simply the standard. The story of Evelyn and Marcus shows that from the deepest pain can rise the most incredible strength. And if you believe in the power of these stories, stories of justice, resilience, and transformation, then please subscribe to this channel and share this video with everyone you know. Together, we are not just telling stories. We are writing a new chapter for our future. A chapter where justice isn't just served, it's systemic. And it's for everyone,